Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So say the writings that I've been researching. And you'll hear more of that if you stick around. And if you don't like that, time to go, because I'm not going to give you my opinions at all much. MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network, published an article of mine entitled "Whose Number No Man Can Compute" in their November 2021 journal. That's the first one they had published. I had written it nearly a year earlier in support of the MUFON Journal article entitled "Hypothesizing Interstellar Law." That proposed that most UFOs appear to follow a code of conduct of some sort. That article is by Arnim Birnbaum and was published in the MUFON Journal in June of 2019. In it, Mr. Birnbaum said, and I quote, "The behavior of alien spacecraft spotted in our seas and skies is anything but random. Some interstellar law likely plays out far from our world among distant and for us unreachable places." End quote. I agreed. I had by this time also noticed that Ancient Alien Theorists, that's the TV show, seem to enjoy finding passages in religious texts that imply that life exists beyond Earth. So, since I too had discovered in certain religious texts, those being copyrighted, authorized translations of primary sources, by the way, that there is definitely a basis for such an interstellar code. I had submitted the following article, which began, quote, "I was perusing the translation of the sacred texts of an obscure Eastern religion when I stumbled across this. Know thou that every fixed star hath its own planets, and every planet its own creatures, whose number no man can compute. No one need ask, what is this implying?" Then, in the article, which I am paraphrasing and commenting upon here as we go, and I'm doing that because although I wrote the article, it's published by a third party, and so there's copyright that they have. I'm just making sure that I don't just read the article which appeared in their journal. So I began quoting relevant verses from the writings. And as I've just said, the one I quoted was, "Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. Without truthfulness, progress and success in all the worlds of God are impossible for any soul. When this holy attribute is established in man, all the divine qualities will also be acquired." In the article, I suggested that traveling between star systems implies that a civilization has successfully progressed. So according to this passage, those souls, if that word should be found applicable, must understand truthfulness. Please note that the verse says established in man, not human beings. There's a distinction there that runs, a thread that runs through everything I've written. Further, I noted that I was searching for an entire code of universal law, a guiding system of belief which, from a human point of view, could not function without the concept of truthfulness. I noted in the article that sacred texts and their teachings, such as the Ten Commandments and the Golden Rule, inform Western culture's ideas on law and ethics, as well as other earthly codes of conduct. The Golden Rule is both ancient and universal on Earth. Then I posed a couple questions of my own. Could the Golden Rule extend to other planets? Humans have reason to believe that the universal constants found in mathematics do. But how could the alien techno-geeks that made anti-gravity their plaything have anything in common with the substance of sacred texts of some obscure earthly religious faith? In support of that, I offered another verse from the writings. Religion must be in conformity with science and reason. If belief and teaching are opposed to the analysis of reason and principles of science, they are not worthy of acceptance. And I offered this verse as well. Put all your beliefs into harmony with science. There can be no opposition, for truth is one. In other words, truth is the foundation of virtue, and truth is one. So whatever the more scientific-minded members of our own UFO community can add to this conversation by way of science cannot be at odds with what I was finding, if you believe, like I do, that the writings are true. If truth is one, then ET should be faced with the same truth, should they not? These texts, by claiming truth is one, combine science with religion using God, whatever may be meant by that word, as the source. But do the texts actually mention applications beyond Earth? Turns out they do. I found references to God as the Lord of all worlds, plural, too numerous to list them all. If you follow any organized faith at all, you're probably going to have heard things similar. Here are a few anyway. Quote, Thou art our Lord and the Lord of all worlds, and the God of all that are in heaven and all that are on earth. Another quote in a different place, All praise be to God, the Lord of all worlds. And a third place, In truth there is no God but him, the omnipotent ruler of worlds, plural, the omnipotent protector of all worlds. And before I go on, I take great pains to note that I have friends who are atheists and agnostics. And if you are, I'm not trying to, go God, God, God all over the place. In these writings, God is unknowable, not unknown, but unknowable. And so for followers of these writings, the messenger is the intermediary. He takes this unknowable thing and brings it down to a level that our mind can grasp what he's talking about. But what he's actually talking about when it comes to that word, it's unknowable. So we know aspects of it, but we cannot grasp it in totality because it is infinite. All creatures that exist are dependent upon the divine bounty. As the light of the sun shines on the whole world, so the mercy of the infinite God is shed on all creatures. I put some bold type in there in the article, which I note as my own. And that is a lot of all for some of y'all. But you get the point. Also, those of you who are into cryptids, like me, please note that since they are on Earth, they are covered, are they not? According to what these writings just said. Hubble and similar telescopes have shown us that there are numerous other worlds, numerous planets in the Goldilocks zone, and galaxies that fill regions that formerly appeared to us to be empty space. So when these sacred texts mention all worlds, we in the 21st century now know scientifically that these worlds exist, namely beyond Earth. As recently as the late 20th century, we did not, or science did not. These writings are from like the late 1800s. So what about a code of laws drifting through illimitable space? More verses turned up. I've been in Baha'i for a long time. I knew they would. Quote, Inasmuch as we find all phenomena subject to an exact order and under control of universal law, there it says it. The question is whether this is due to nature or to divine and omnipotent rule. That's the end of that sentence that I pulled from the writings. What is ufology if not the study of strange phenomena? Inasmuch as we find all phenomena subject to an exact order. Ufology studies strange phenomena. And pretty cool to find verses right on point, I noted. Then it went on to talk about the law of God. Again, pardon the word, but your guess as to how we got here is as good as mine. I tend to use God. Other people use whatever they use. It doesn't matter. We're all here now. The law of God is one. The evolution of existence is one. If you're a scientist, it just said the evolution of existence is one. The divine order is one. All beings, great and small, are subject to one law and one order. Now, when I started all of this, writing these articles and writing for the Great Questions Project of the Mutual UFO Network, it was to make ufology aware of the writings. And the idea being that through reading writings like this, whether you believe anything they say or not, it may help scientists, seekers, experiencers, and everyone to ask better questions. Because you may encounter things that you had not thought of before, or it may jog your mind to think of them in ways that you had not thought of them before. Let's go on. I used the verse, a statement with the word evolution, on purpose, just so you know. Also, as a small being who has seen a great being, I was pleased to find this one. Most people think elephants are great beings, I guess. I'm not sure what I thought this meant 25 or even 5 years ago. Talking about animals, I must have supposed. By great being, I'm not talking about me seeing the Lord. I'm talking about me seeing something much larger than I am. Okay, goes on. Quote, reflect upon the inner realities of the universe, the secret wisdoms involved, the enigmas, the interrelationships, the rules that govern all. And I put in brackets, is this not describing high strangeness to a T? Enigmas, interrelationships, rules that govern all. Going on. Quote, for every part of the universe is connected with every other part by ties that are very powerful and admit of no imbalance, nor any slackening whatever. End of quote. And then another quote from another passage. On the contrary, the essence of sanctity is the sum of all divine and lordly perfections, and all creatures receive illumination from his, get this, emanational appearance, and partake of the lights of his celestial perfection and beauty in the same way that what? All earthly creatures acquire the grace of light from the rays of the sun, without any descent or abasement of the latter into the recipient realities of these earthly beings. Now, the essence of sanctity and the illumination of his emanational appearance, they're talking about the messengers of God here. But they're talking about what it says, all creatures receive illumination from his emanational appearance, and then they go on to make a distinction in the same way that all earthly creatures acquire the grace of light from the rays of the sun. They're implying that they're talking about creatures on earth and beyond earth. I also used the verse with the word emanational on purpose because holograms emanate from a source, if you catch my drift. I don't know if the writings are hinting at something here, but as I may have mentioned, words are used with precision in the writings. There may be more going on here than things within the scope of this article. If that verse could sing, it might win a hologrammy. Dad humor, my apology. The texts go on, quote, my meaning instead is that this endless universe is like the human body, and that all its parts are connected one with another and are linked together in the utmost perfection. That is, in the same way that the parts and members, organs of the human body are interconnected, and that they mutually assist, reinforce, and influence each other, so too are the parts and members of this endless universe connected with and spiritually and materially influenced by one another. Now, at that point, I mentioned, because in 2021, I couldn't remember who it was, but it's Dr. Stephen Greer's group, that there are ufologists in Arizona, well, and there are more than Arizona now, that meditate to connect with ET and ask them to appear. And I put in the article, no wonder it works. The quotation goes on, and if such relationships, such spiritual influences and effects are found among the various members of the body of man, which is only one particular being among many, then there must assuredly exist both spiritual and material relationships among the countless universal beings. And although our present methods and sciences cannot detect these relationships among the countless universal beings, it says, their existence is nonetheless clear and indisputable. End of quotation. I am not sure what is meant by countless universal beings, but the text implies our current level of science, civilization, truthfulness doesn't yet comprehend it. I find that fascinating. And I put it on in print so that if you actually go and look at the website, the YouTube channel, you can see that you can vet these quotations by going to baha'i.org/library, and it's searchable. So if you put in countless universal beings at that location, this quotation should come up. So in that article, I concluded that these obscure passages say there are creatures and planets everywhere, and that they are all connected and subject to the same rules. Who would have thought? I said, to conclude the article, that it sounds like some sort of interstellar law to me. Well, that was just me writing, but yes, it absolutely says that, I believe. But also, going on with the text here, I wonder if by saying they mutually assist, reinforce, and influence each other, so too are the parts and members of this endless universe. This verse is not describing how beings do and should interact. Many people have questions about how to respond to close encounters with ET or Sabe and such. If one could accept that they may be here to mutually assist, etc., then the anxiety of an encounter might be reduced, and that would be a good thing. Now, regarding the article, I had been published once before. Back in the 1980s, Western Illinois University at Macomb published my thesis about the American Civil War in their history journal. That's what I got my master's in. I don't know what the circulation of that journal is, but probably enough. I probably have enough fingers and toes to add it up. I think it was published to a shelf. And the white papers surrounding the Great Questions Project are supposed to be published as well at this writing. I don't know where to find them. They're published by MUFON some way, somehow, somewhere, but it's not well known, at least to me. The article, however, felt special. I was discovering a possible purpose for myself when I wrote it and sent it off. The idea was finally confirmed almost a year later when it was published. I had borrowed my approach from Ancient Aliens TV show to a certain degree, in that I described the writings as those of a little-known mystical Eastern faith, which is true. The Baha'i writings, the Baha'is comprise about 0.5% of the world's population, 8 million out of 8 billion. I figured that was little known. The Baha'i writings have mystical writings that describe themselves as mystical, in particular the 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys by Baha'u'llah. It is Eastern in that every religion is Eastern. They all arise in, what do we call it? The Holy Land. They all come from that area. And it is a faith. It's not a religion. Religion is a a system. Religion is, there's a bunch of rules, and that defines what you're doing. But the faith is a matter of individual faith more. And so it defines itself as a faith. So little known mystical Eastern faith is what I settled upon to describe it in the articles so that it just wouldn't turn people off. It leaves it open, as they did in Ancient Aliens. Also, I treat them as a rare find, which is also true. I seldom mention the name of the faith in the articles themselves. I feel that is too overt for the readership of the MUFON article. If anyone cares where the writings come from or what else they may say, and this goes for you too, they will have to look at the endnotes and make a little effort of their own, to find out whatever it is they need. That is okay. I think that may actually be best. You can lead a horse to water, but if the horse isn't thirsty, the water is not relevant to that particular horse, so they say. Also, I let the writings speak for themselves, and I keep my opinion out of there. By visualizing the library and basically going third person with regard to the writings, which are the writings of my own faith, I let everybody look over my shoulder and decide if they like what they see. This was a new approach for me, both in writing and in teaching, this is for Baha'is, this is teaching. It may be the norm for the faith now, for all that I know, but it is a new perspective for me. And it's also being transparent so that you know what I'm up to. And whether you are a Baha'i or not, one must ask themselves, why would the writings even talk about the close relationships and connections between all portions of an infinite universe if humans on one tiny planet were the only intelligent life? And why would they talk about the unity of mankind if, regardless of how many intelligent civilizations may be out there, never the twain shall meet? What would be the point? The writings are very clear about the connections. I think we will discover that the inference is that these intelligent beings and humans have probably already met. And that's where the text of this chapter 18 ends. And we're at the end of 2021 in a manuscript that will bring us all the way up to date. The last thing currently written is 2023. I have not yet written down some very interesting events for 2024. I've been taking notes, but I haven't summarized or written them up. So I think we'll leave that here. And the next one coming up, the next episode will, when I get to chapter 19, it's 2022, February of 2022, I had a little incident with mind speak. And that's what we'll talk about next. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you then. Bye.
It is. Yay! You did it.